Oh, hello everyone, it's Susie here from Esoteric Trading Solutions. I hope you're all well. I hope you're living the life that you want to live. You're being kind to yourself. You're being kind to your family and friends. You're being kind to your putty cats, your animals, and you're being kind to people in the world just to make this place a better world. Today I thought I'd just do an update on Ripple as I normally do. I haven't done one for a while, since May the 12th. And I thought I'd look at just all the news that's come out, Ripple and XRP from May the 12th to the 12th of August. And like everything, there's always so much news that comes out, Ripple and XRP. It's just quite incredible. In my Slack channels that I have for my clients, we have 2 channels of Ripple XRP news. And it just shows you what comes out, Ripple and XRP compared to other crypto coins. It's quite amazing. Also, the reason why I do this is because I like to obviously keep an eye on my investment, whether anything's changed in terms of Ripple or XRP. And honestly, every time I do this, I go through all the information for the last couple of months. I'm even more convinced that my investment's sound. And, you know, all I can say is for me, I'm here for the long haul because seriously, these guys are running while everyone else is just sitting there on their bums in terms of cryptocurrency land. These guys and girls, as far as I'm concerned, are running. They're quite amazing what they're doing. They just keep updating the technology. They keep adding new clients. They keep adding new exchanges. There's just so much going on. And the more I read and know more about Ripple and XRP, the more I'm absolutely convinced that I'm happy with my cryptocurrency investment. In my mind, even if Ripple XRP got down to a cent, I would still see it as such an investment opportunity. I'd literally put my life on it. Seriously, I just would. And that's my hand on heart. For me, Susie Crew, I would put my life on it. I'm just absolutely convinced. And look, I know people have, are getting frustrated because it's taking so long and everything else. But when you look at the history of new technology in society, it has taken a long time. As I said before, and I'll reiterate again, we remember when the internet came out, well before some of you babies were alive, 1992 or 1993. It took 5 or 6 years at least before the sheep or the world or, the general masses got to understand the internet. It does take a while, often with new technology to hit the mainstream. And what I mean by the mainstream is the populace, the population out there where everyone's using it. The cab driver, the lady that wants to buy herself a coffee, the mother that goes shopping with her children, would use XRP as a payment methodology. Again, this technology has not hit the masses. And I've said this time and time again. Look at all my other YouTubes that I've done over the last couple of years. This technology has not hit the masses. And so how can a technology that hasn't hit the masses, where only a very small percentage of people know about this technology, they only know Bitcoin. I spoke to a guy when I was in Amsterdam who was from New Zealand. He thinks Bitcoin's a scam. He thinks it's an absolute scam. A lot of people think cryptocurrency is a scam. They think it's a Ponzi scheme. There's so much lack of knowledge out there in terms of cryptocurrency land. I guess for me, that gives me even more faith. The fact is, the masses don't know about the technology. They've got no idea. And when you do talk to people about the cryptocurrency technology, some people are so ignorant, they just go, oh, that's a scam. I don't even want to know anything about it. And honestly, I've lost my breath trying to explain it to people and I won't even bother anymore. But the reality is, the bottom line is, the banks cannot stop this technology, even though they're trying to. Seriously, I've been trying to buy, certain coins and try to get money out of my bank accounts, all the major banks in Australia that I have accounts with, and the banks are stopping me from doing that, and they're certainly stopping other people from doing it. So the banks are resistant, this constant resistance to new technology. It's almost like people are resistant. You saw in the olden days, or even some of the country towns in Australia, where people, the whole village or the whole town is relying on chopping down trees. So their resistance to new ways of life and resistance to new ways of technology, even though cutting down trees environmentally has proven again and again that it's extremely damaging for the environment. but the whole town or the village or whatever refuses to look at new technology because they don't want to change their way of life. Now, this is the same story. Honestly, it's the same story. And people, there's a lot of people that don't want to change their way of life. And the banks are very resistant to change their way of doing things because they just take, rape and pillage and take so much money out of people and the masses. So the thing is, the masses have no idea about this technology. They don't understand cryptocurrency technology. They've heard this vague thing called Bitcoin. A lot of people think it's, maybe it's a coin, but it's not real. And, they'd listen to, idiots like, what's his name, Jamie Dimon from JP Morgan, who's certainly got a vested interest in not having the technology come to fruition because that guy's getting paid millions and millions and millions. Why would he want to, do something that's going to upset his apple cart? But the reality is, while these people are still in power at all levels, the white Anglo-Saxon Protestant male, not that this is a female male thing, the status quo still stays the same. And the status quo is literally and bluntly 7.7 billion people in the world, 4.1 billion are poor. The monopolies make all the money, like the banks and like the banks and some of the other big monopolies, which we won't go into. And something's got to change. And peer-to-peer transactions that cryptocurrency brings with limited expense, literally free, the banks and that the corporations cannot stop this technology. It is just literally the technology will not be stopped. It's almost like, the cars come, but people still want to ride the bike. You know what I'm saying? The bicycle. Anyway, look, that's enough of that because I always go too far and too long. But there's so much to get through today. So let's just really, really hammer this out because honestly, every time I go through the news of the last 3 months, and we record everything. I've got my sister-in-law working for me and she records everything in our channels because it's like a database as well. And also because I've got real investments with my own money. And this is a part of your investment policy or your strategy. You should always keep an eye on the investments that you hold, to see if anything's changed and that you're still comfortable with your investments. Well, I can tell you now, I've got use for your sport, which is an Australian saying. I'm extremely comfortable with my investments with XRP. And honestly, if it got down to 1 cent, I would even see that more as an opportunity. I don't look at the money I've lost. And yes, on book, I've lost money, but I haven't sold anything. I have no intention of selling anything. If I have to hold until another 20 years when I'm an old grandlady, an old grandmother or whatever, well, then so be it. But if I've got to do that because the masses still don't know, then I will do that if the masses are so stupid. But anyway, and obviously the masses are, but then obviously governments control what the masses get to see, and obviously banks control what the masses get to see as well. So anyway, let's just go through this because there is a lot here. Again, Ripple has always put in more and more, more and more business. I mean, we know about this corridor with Saudi Arabia and India, and these are massive markets that we're talking about, massive markets. India's 1.33 billion. They've just employed Brianne Madigan, a former Goldman Sachs person, to basically, go out there and spruce up Ripple and talk about Ripple, the technology. And this woman's she was a head of institutional sales on Wall Street. This woman is a former powerhouse and really knows her stuff. There's no doubt about it, okay? Huge. Ripple executives were on the United States Faster Payments Council board. Again, Ripple is certainly pushing for bank adoption in terms of XRP. They put on something like 6 to 8 new clients this month. Already amazing just in this month, right? They've backed Instarem. They've also, they've partnered with Brazil's B-Tech. Now, some of this stuff might have been from previous months, but that's fine. But I'm just covering everything that's in my Slack channels, okay? More and more companies are looking at XRapid. Don't forget, companies in the world, big companies, something like 2.8 million big companies, okay? In terms of bank, there's only about 48,000, according to the statistics that are out there, okay? XRP is for everyone, not just what Tony Vale says it's a banking coin. It's not. It's for everyone. again, if you have a settlement problem where you don't get cash straight away, XRP is the coin for you. It's a coin for everyone, okay? Everyone. XRapid, basically Thailand, they've put them in as a client. MoneyNet Internet, they've put on as a client as well. Again, XRP, their volumes are increasing, over and over. Every quarter, their volumes are getting bigger and bigger. Okay, institutional people are buying XRP, bigger and bigger and bigger. Okay, we know about SBI Holdings. They're backing, obviously, Ripple and XRP. Okay, these guys just get bigger and bigger. They're running, as I said, they're completely running. There's something like 9 billion XRP transactions between wallets. They're employing all the right people. Again, they're doing a lot with Coil. They're doing a lot with this Vita Vin, who I met in Amsterdam in May. Lovely, lovely guy who's going to get rid of the XRP tag. He can do that in Twitter, and now he's going to do it on the exchange, which is fantastic. Again, with that Amsterdam meetup group, they were talking about Ripple and XRP creating a banking app. Okay, now I've said this before in other YouTubes. Ripple could be a bank easily. They could be a bank, they could be an exchange, they could be anything they want. They are so cashed up, they have so much money, they could become an exchange, they could become a bank. If they're smart, they should become a bank, okay? And I've said this in other YouTubes, right? Also, there's this Wallet Trust Chrome extension. Again, you can now do XRP through that, okay? Which is fantastic. I mean, we know that Google Chrome browsers are the biggest in the world, right? So you can now do XRP through that. Item 13, for example. If we go forward, whoops, what's that? Gosh, I do something and something else comes up. If we go forward, now SBI plans launch in-store payments with Ripple Power Money Tap app. Again, we know about SBI. Crypto Airy talks about them all the time, and she does a very good job of that. They're huge in Tokyo, absolutely huge, right? Ripple launches XRP Labs, launching Zing, a mobile application with banking services based on XRP. Ripple keeps releasing more and more escrow, which is getting taken up by the institutional investors. It doesn't stop, right? Item 17, as I said, more in-store payments via, SBI, for example, and QR codes, right? Transactions take 4 seconds. Bitcoin, as we know, can take anything up from 10 minutes to 16 hours or even overnight because of the miners and everything else. It's not workable. It's not workable in the real world. We know that, okay? We know that, absolutely. Item 19, BitTrue fully supports XRP and now has its own ledger as well, okay? Its own node for XRP. And it's supporting them all the time and putting on new currency pairs with XRP as well, okay? Number 20, XRP 24-hour payments volumes were rising phenomenally, okay? Huge volumes going through. Switzerland Commercial Registry is pushing for XRP global. XRP were at the Money 2020 conference sprouting about XRP and using XRapid. SendFriend are now using XRapid, which is great. MoneyGram being acquired by Ripple, $50 million, put up $30 million now, $20 million later. Now, MoneyGram is huge, okay? Now, MoneyGram are going to literally, they're using XRP, they're going to save 70% to their bottom line, which is like adding back 70% to your profit, okay? What do you think Western Union's going to do? Western Union are going to be blown out of the water if they don't do what MoneyGram does. Literally blown out of the water. Now, this is an important point, actually, because Ripple have so much money from selling their technology to anyone that's interested in their technology. They have so much money. They've got so much cash. They can invest in companies, buy companies that can use XRP. And what that means is the XRP 100 bill that's out there will be soaked up very quickly in the next 2 years. Okay, the XRP 100 bill will be soaked up very quickly. Now, 100 bill, again, I repeat, this is nothing when we're talking about a $2 trillion settlement problem. Yes, it's over $2 trillion. A matter of fact, even if you add literally derivatives to that, derivatives, the International Monetary Fund and the Bank of International Settlements said derivatives are anything from 800 mil to 1.4 quadrillion. 800 trill. to 1.4 quadrillion. This is derivatives market, which also has a cash settlement problem. Derivatives do not settle instantly. Cash instantly, right? Like 1, 2, 3, 4 seconds, I've got the cash. Derivatives, they reckon it's something like 800 trill to a 1.4 quadrillion market. Now that's 1,000 trillion, okay? XRP can fix that problem and Ripple. 1,000 trillion problem. 100 billion, and this is the point, 100 billion is nothing, absolutely nothing. If people say to you, XRP and Ripple have too much issuance of 100 billion, you got to say bunkum, which is an Australian terminology, or garbology. Because if you're just looking at the derivatives market alone of 1.4 quadrillion, which is 1,000 trillion, which how many billions is that? Oh my God, I don't know. 100,000 billion by 100,000 billion? I don't know. The figures are mind-boggling. Then, you know, we're talking about literally a time in the next couple of years where there'll be no XRP left. And that's why the price of XRP can go up, okay? Because literally it'll be battered down and there'll be none left in the market. That's why the price can go up, okay? Now, item 25, there was some XRP stolen, but it was a GitHub problem. That's a spelling mistake, not my fault. I've copied it from somewhere. A GitHub problem due to a breach of security. So it wasn't Ripple or XRP. Now, I want to say something here too. Ripple have done 48 million ledgers since their inception in 2012. 48 million ledgers, and they've never had a problem with anything in terms of their technology. Now, people compare Ripple to Stellar, and I can tell you now, I've got news for you. Ripple and Stellar are nothing like each other. Stellar, if you go into Stellar's ledger and look at their technology, you'll see that they've barely done, you know, anything in terms of ledgers and that sort of thing in terms of transactions compared to Ripple. And you'll see a lot of the time their ledger's being down. And again, people go on about Ripple being centralized in terms of nodes, which is bullshit. Okay, I'm sorry to say that, bullshit. They only control something like 3% now of their nodes, right? Compare it again to Stellar, and I will say this, Stellar controls over 27% of their nodes. They're more centralized than Ripple is. And again, you know, we can talk about other coins being centralized, whether it be Bitcoin because of the miners, whether it be Ethereum because of the miners, whether it be Litecoin, again, whether it be Neo. Neo's only got about 8 nodes, okay? 8 nodes, where a malicious attack of 51% can happen at any time, okay? Any time because of 8 nodes. Someone can gain control of the network and basically control that network. But again, no one bangs on about Neo being centralized. They're more centralized than anyone. And I can pull out so many other coins or tokens that are centralized as well. Okay, but we won't go into that, will we? Yes, because, you know, the dissenters of Ripple never talk about other coins that are centralized because all they want to do is bang Ripple and XRP, you know, and put trash against Ripple and XRP. Seriously. Anyway, look, Ripple's branched out into Switzerland. So, again, they're going into other countries. They've branched out into Switzerland. They've also branched out into Brazil. Where else have they gone? Just recently, Brazil, Switzerland, South Korea, obviously, but there was somewhere else I've forgotten now. But anyway, it'll come to me. Again, even Chris Larsen says, you know, they've got an efficient digital asset and they're saying there's trillions of capital that needs to be, you know, not tied up, that needs to be fixed. We're just talking capital here. We're talking trillions here. Even Chris Larsen, who's the executive chairman, knows what he's talking about. You know, we're not talking 100 million or, you know, a billion. We're talking trillions here, trillions, right, of capital. And I'm not even talking about the other markets in financial markets or the derivatives market. 100 billion XRP is nothing. And in a couple of years, all that'll be soaked up, and that's what will push this price up. Honestly, that's what will push this price up. Now, right, let's go through this very quickly. So, you know, there's an article here about XRP never hitting $100. Well, I'm sorry, whoever wrote that, I got news for you. I disagree vehemently because you're not looking at the supply side. Once the supply side literally, you know, is in the hands of people and it doesn't come out into the market, the circulating supply, XRP can move up very, very quickly. And we see that in the stock market, okay? We see it in the stock market. You know, there's total supply and there's circulating supply. And as the circulating supply gets smaller and smaller, then the stock market price goes up very, very quickly and very easily. Now, we also know that XRP is decoupling away from Bitcoin, which is great. Thailand's-based D-Money service is testing XRP, which is great. Again, you know, a non-financial services company. Again, they've expanded into Brazil, and it's not surprising. Brazil's got 209 million people. Huge country, huge. Item 33, you know, they're putting on 2 to 3 financial institutions a week. Even Delatine, who works for Ripple, basically says they've signed up 14 new banks in the last, you know, few weeks alone, which is quite incredible. And this is the head of institutional. I mean, honestly. Now, also, Ripple is targeting Brazil, South America, Chile, Peru, and Argentina. Argentina, as you know, is a population of 49 million. Massive. Brazil, 209 million. Ripple are in China, 1.389 billion. They're in India, 1.339 billion. They're in South Korea, 51 million. Who else? Where else are they? They're in Venezuela, as I said. They're in Japan. You know, Japan is 126 million people. You know, in Australia, we're talking about a 24 million people. We're talking in these countries, massive population. It wouldn't surprise me if Ripple goes to Russia. Now, Russia's about a 320 million population, and they could, because the Russians don't want to deal with SWIFT. They don't want to deal with SWIFT. They want to deal outside of the US SWIFT system so that US government cannot put embargoes on them and control their accounts. You know, Vladimir Putin's made that very clear. So it would not surprise me if eventually Ripple went and set up an office in Russia. It might be a little bit political, but it makes sense for them to do that in terms of business, the business of Ripple, okay? Absolutely. Now, Brazil, $2 billion remittance market, okay? We know China and India have the biggest remittance markets in the world. India, 81 billion. China, 67 billion. What else? China, 67 billion. Brazil, 2 billion. But we know in South America, you know, we know Mexico's got a remittance market of something like 38 billion alone. And Ripple happens to be there as well in Mexico. Ripple are everywhere where they need to be. Seriously, these guys and girls run. These girls and guys are running a marathon, whereas the rest of the crypto market is sitting on its laurels. Seriously, these guys are running and running and running. These girls and guys are running and running and running, okay? Now, we know they've got a new partner, MoneyNet International. You know, they go everywhere. And there's another partner, PXP. You know, they got customers in the US and Europe, okay? Again, Ripple's got GoLads, okay, who are now doing stuff with them, all right? Even, you know, more and more clients are getting on here. You know, the banks are looking more at RippleNet as we speak. You know, again, you know, the banks are looking more at RippleNet because if they don't, they're going to be behind the 8 curve, okay? They're going to be behind. You know, we know Bank of America did a patent recently and it so happened to have Ripple on there. Now, we know the Bank of America is one of the proactive in terms of digital currency and new technology. They are smart. They are seriously smart. They're the second largest bank in the US. I had no idea the Bank of America was so big. It's a $2 trillion business. They have something like, you know, oh man, massive amounts of clients, but we'll come to that. I mean, massive. I had no idea. You know, again, Ripple's put on Coin One for RippleNet, which means that more XRP is going to be sold. Okay, they've invested, as I said, 50 million in MoneyGram to boost XRP. Again, this will bring out other service providers. And as I said, there's about 2.8 million big companies in the world and only about 48,000 banks. So, you know, there's a big world out there, a huge world, and companies, big companies have a settlement problem issue. You know, as more companies and banks, right? Ripple doesn't need to sell to banks. They can sell to anyone, me, you, companies, anything, right? Again, you know, this thing with MoneyGram, it's amazing. It's going to provide so much liquidity. It's going to add 70 cents to MoneyGram's profitability. You know, Western Union is dead in the water if they don't follow what MoneyGram did. Absolutely. Again, German central bank payments. Even the head of German central bank's payment was talking about Ripple. As far as the currency is concerned, Ripple offers a serious alternative to other markets as more competition provides better services and or prices to the clients, right? Now, again, this guy is the head of the Germany's central bank payments, right? And praises Ripple. It just so happens, you know, again, Lagarde, who, you know, Christine Lagarde was the head of the International Monetary Fund. Okay, she leaves, she's resigned from there and she leaves in September. You know, there is a rumour that she's going to be the head of the European Central Bank and taking over Mario Draghi's position. Now, if that's the case, she's one of the most powerful women in the world and she knows about Ripple and she's very pro-Ripple and its technology. You know, and again, the European Central Bank doesn't have great payment corridors for global real-time gross settlement. Okay, it's a big one. Now, you know, Christine Lagarde is one of the most powerful women in Europe, okay, and in the world, clearly. If she becomes the head of the European Central Bank, it could be game on. Also, don't forget, Ripple were very, very clever. You know, you had Brad Garlinghouse the other day writing an open letter to the Federal Reserve and the central bank and to the Senate. You know, great marketing ploy. You know, and telling the Senate how great they are and everything. He wants government to know who they are, who Ripple are. This is fantastic. The more marketing, the better. You know, it's brilliant. These guys and girls are seriously smart and seriously switched on. Honestly, I'd marry XRP if I could. I'm not kidding. Seriously. Anyway, I'm being silly, but you know what I'm saying. I've got no problem with being in XRP. Even if it gets down to 1 cent, I just think it's an absolute opportunity. Honestly, that's my view. That's my view. This is not investment advice. This is just education. So, what else we got here? XRP, they're in Latin American banks, getting bigger and bigger and bigger. You know, they're there where they need to be. Seriously, you know, Latin America, South America is huge. Brazil, as I said, is over 209 million people in Brazil, which I had no idea it was that big. Even Venezuela, I didn't know it was up to 50 million people. We're talking big populations here with huge remittance markets, okay? Buying, payment, you know, sending money all over the world or bringing money in. So if we go to the next one, 49, again, you know, Ripple is very, very serious. Now, this is what Lagarde said, okay? And this is exactly what Lagarde said. I think in the banking system at large, in many, many countries, the difference will be between those who are disrupted and those who survive. The difference will be between those who are cannibalized because they are not seeing it coming and they are not embracing it, and those who self-induce that cannibalization. So that is where I see the changes now. If you think of Circle and Ripple and all those, that is where they are active and helpful, Lagarde. Now, in other words, you know, this woman's a very, very smart woman. She said these guys are ahead of the game, okay? And I agree with that. Absolutely ahead of the game. There's no doubt about it in my mind. And the fact that someone like Christine Lagarde, who heads up the International Monetary Fund, would know about Ripple is pretty amazing in itself, okay? Because I've done a YouTube on the International Monetary Fund, and sending money to any poor country has so many issues with restrictions in terms of lending and basically restrictions in terms of their assets and what they can do, or moratoriums. And also, to some degree, the International Monetary Fund is dictated to by the US because the US, buy a lot of their special drawing rights, okay? So Lagarde would know how flexible it would be and better to actually use Ripple and XRP, because often, because the US is buying all those special drawing rights of the International Monetary Fund, and that's the money that the International Monetary Fund is getting to lend out to poorer countries, the US is dictating its own policy. So it makes the International Monetary Fund not independent. So Lagarde would know those issues and would understand what Ripple is trying to do with liquidity and XRP, because they could easily lend out this liquidity and XRP to these to these poor countries, generating economic growth without all the politics of the member nations that are a part of buying the special drawing rights, and also without these poor nations having to sign so much paperwork and so much documentation in terms of trade embargoes and everything else, that it never happens and these poor nations don't get the money. And not only that when they do get the money from, say, the special drawing rights from the traditional way, the money doesn't go where it should, and it goes into the corrupt hands of the politicians in those poor nations. So that is another story. I have done a YouTube on that, but it's something you need to really keep in mind. Okay, let's just speed through this because already half an hour's gone. So again, they've got another startup they've just invested in, 20 million in Viewer, and this is micropayment startup with Coil, and this is going to be a big story too going forward as well. Okay, so they've also signed up another company, Tigwa. Again, this is from Community Blog, and there's just so much going on here. More and more exchanges. I won't go through every one of them. More and more exchanges all the time. Again, investing in Bolt Labs, more exchanges, Rare Money Transfer, Banesco Panama, XRP, FX CM's put on XRP as well. Brad Garlinghouse spoke at the Swiss National Bank conference, and again, they're now in Switzerland. Again, another exchange broker in Brazil's partnership with XRP. The list goes on and on here. More and more exchanges, more and more trading pairs, which will be, it's global basically. Leapfrog, they put them on. Elite, Vontobel Investment Banking, again, wealth management they specialize in, and now doing Ripple XRP certificates for investors. Amazing. Ripple have opened up an office in Switzerland, as I said, more currency pairs. GoLance, something about Tipper. Again, goes on and on and on. This is in XRP community. Thank you very much for whoever wrote that. Plus, we've got Scotiabank Chile running Ripple proofs as well. More exchanges, Send Friend and the like. And again, they're in huge countries, as I said. Venezuela, 49 mil, Brazil, 209, South Korea, 51, Japan, 126, China, 1.38 billion and 1.339. This is population. Amazing, amazing. So these are the new clients they put in from this reference. Equibank, Ria, I won't go through those. More and more clients, invested in more and more companies, more and more pairs to be traded. And again, you know, we've got all this here. I won't go into each of these. There's some talk that even HSBC might be potentially looking at XRP. There's just a rumour out there, complete rumour. But, you know, sometimes there's a bit of truth to rumours as well. And that was in July. What else we got here? Again, Ripple made an open letter to the US government about fair regulation where it comes to cryptocurrency. Again, they're making investments in Japan and Japanese universities. And what else we got here? Even at the Federal Reserve rate decline announcement on the 5th of August, Jeremy Powell mentioned, the payment system that the Fed has and how bad it is, and that they will be putting out to tender a new payment system. And there has been a story there that Ripple could be a part of that because they're actually on that board as well, okay? Ripple, in my mind, seem to be everywhere. Honestly, they're everywhere. Now, also, Ripple's Brad Garlinghouse has said they're eyeing even multiple investments after their investment in MoneyGram because Ripple have so much money. They've got billions on the balance sheet, billions, with no debt, okay? Billions. So, you know, the thing is, they'll just buy companies that'll use XRP. They'll buy companies that have a network of clients globally that will use XRP. And you can see that 100 billion is going to be gobbled up very, very quickly in the next 2 years. Gobbled up, gobbled up, gobbled up, okay? Gobble, gobble, gobble. Even in one day, 126 million transactions were done, according to Bank XRP. Thank you. I mean, that is unbelievable, unbelievable. Again, what else we got here? Even to the exchanges, apparently the 36 exchanges, 1.1 billion of XRP was sold. I mean, this volume is increasing all the time. Okay, there's some news that US payroll software company might be looking at Ripple as well. Again, EastNet. If you look at EastNet, it says that they're a Ripple partner. You know, again, when you look around, you can find even more clients that Ripple's actually got. Quite amazing. As I said, Bank of America, second largest bank in the world, has a deposit base of 1.38 trillion, 66 million consumers Bank of America serves. Quite amazing. And they are basically, they've applied for a patent and they're citing Ripple's ledger. Now, Bank of America, they basically have been awarded winning mobile banking app and are heavily invested in digital technology. Okay, whoops. And essentially, they really, you know, put a lot of money into technology in their clients. So if Bank of America being the second largest bank with over 2 trillion in balance sheet and, you know, so many clients are going to invest in XRP and Ripple, it really, really tells me just to stay with my investment, seriously. And this is from King Blue. Thank you so much, King Blue, for this. But, you know, if you look at the institutional sales, the over-the-counter, OTC, you know, these are increasing all the time, okay? Massive amounts of increase from 64% in the last quarter.
So where does that leave us? We know that volume is increasing incredibly. But another thing, too, I wanted to bring up as well is Christine Lagarde has resigned from the International Monetary Fund. And I think her last day is the 9th of September. The 12th of September. And pretty much there is a strong rumour that she could be heading up the European Central Bank, taking over from Mario Draghi. And it's a very interesting appointment because, as you know, that's going to make Christine Lagarde one of the most powerful women in the world and certainly one of the most powerful women in Europe. And also she knows a lot about Ripple and XRP. And one thing I will say, and this is food for thought, the European Central Bank does have very bad payment corridors for real-time gross settlement and liquidity. So it could be very much potentially a game changer if she is made the head of the European Central Bank. It is something, there are a lot of ifs in this, and there's a lot of, trying to put the plasters together. But I think just look out for that space as well, because if she does get headed the European Central Bank, then I think it's going to be very interesting for Ripple and XRP per se as well. Anyway, guys, sorry I always go too long. My apologies. And I realise that I've been moving around too much and there's a lot of microphone disturbance. But look, you can't be perfect all the time. I'm pretty hopeless with the technology of recording and everything else, but I hope you get something from this. Again, I'm very happy with my investment. This is education only. Please look after yourself, look after your family and friends. Please look after your beautiful putty cats, your beautiful dogs, your beautiful animals. Please be kind to everyone in the world. Just be kind to people generally, just to make this a better place in the world. We are all blood and water, and honestly, you never know when you're going to be around. Just down the park there, a girl got killed yesterday with a tree falling on her because there's been a lot of wind in Melbourne. So just shows you life is short. Enjoy yourself and be kind to others. Thanks, guys, for listening. Cheers.